the specificity of research, right, is so pinpointed. Like for example, like they're going to look at one particular variable that they make an assumption about in a primary research article. So if I want to look at vertical jump as an output of power, right, then that's what you're looking at. And what is it? It's quantifiable, right? You can quantify the changes that happen because it's easy, right? You don't have a lot that you have to look at there. Did the person significantly on a statistical relevance? Were they able to improve to that statistical relevance in the vertical jump based on A or B, right? Or the group that wasn't supposed to improve and the group that's supposed to improve because I do X. Well, this is so specific that it omits so many other variables, right? And one of the things we have to understand when we read research is that we're reading things that are so pinpointed into here's the one thing that made a change. That's just not how things work in reality, right? And if we look historically, research is actually philosophy.
Whoa, right? So, there's a line.
Yeah, research is actually philosophy. And if we look at the way the West works and the way we function, it's based on Aristotle's thinking models, right? His logic, his models of logic, his laws of thinking. And Descartes later on had really put down the scientific method, had really laid it down, right? And these are philosophers. So really the history of research has its root in philosophy. And when we look at that, the only way that they could observe the world was through this really microscopic lens of being able to break down something to its smallest component. And that's what I was saying in the beginning. If you look at our anatomy books, what are they full of? Like you can go down to all these different layers, but are they connected?
Mm-hmm.
In the book, anatomy. No.
It's just cadaver anatomy.
Yeah, that's what it is.
Yeah.
And so the point that I want to get to here is that it does very little. This thinking process does very little for relativity or the language of relationship. What's the relationship between the different variables? You can't get to, for example, with that kind of philosophy, you can't get to quantum mechanics. You can't get to certain levels of physics. You can't get to what we've observed in different aspects with that type of a thinking model. You need to get through relativity. You got to get to that level. So there's a big difference between looking at research in one aspect to talk about change for your clientele versus looking at a broader array and making connections, which is what I mean by critical thinking. So I have to look at neuroscience. I've got to look at like motor behavior. I got to look at, the physiological adaptations, and I've got to make connections and links between these different subjects in order to come up with something that's more effective for my clients, because those connections are the critical thinking process. Those connections are where you can come up with really solid changes that you can make to your programming